Longevity Junky is presented to you by our friends at Acast.
What's up, Longevity Junkie? It's time to get your fix. I am Buck Joffrey. I am a former board-certified surgeon, serial entrepreneur, professional investor, and more importantly, a health-conscious hedonist.
And I'm Nikki Lee, actress, model, and the OG Longevity Junkie. Coming up on the show today, we have an interesting update about how Viagra affects the head.
You mean?
I mean the brain.
The brain. Which head, though?
Yeah,
Okay.
This one. The brain and this head.
Great.
We're also talking all things sexual health with world-renowned urologist and podcaster Dr. Ashley Winters, MD. And also we'll debunk some widely held beliefs in this space.
I love Ashley. And I'm a big fan of her work.
I'm sure you are. I love your hesitation there. This is hilarious.
I'm excited about talking about this stuff, but I've just realized what a potty mouth you are because I didn't know that about you. And I feel like I've known you for, I don't know, like a year or two, and I've never seen this come out of you.
I know. My dad would always be like, okay, you got to tone down the potty mouth. You're not going to find, like, he feels like I'm not going to find a man because I'm too much of like a sailor.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, Dad, this is just me. I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, we'll figure it out.
We could find a sailor, another sailor. You can find a sailor.
I know. We can just potty mouth together all the time. I know. It's really bad. I just love like little dirty jokes. I got it from my grandma. She was like the dirty joke queen. We have, like, when she passed away, she had books of dirty jokes, and I was like, I'll take those.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
We should have like a dirty joke of the day.
Oh, I'll tap into my books. I'll tap into my books. Okay.
Let's have some sort of count on how many times there's some sort of innuendo, or you could have a simple penis count.
Yeah. Okay.
You could have a penis count.
You can just put it all in there because I feel like we want the numbers up. You know what? I thought this episode
it's like a dream come true.
I really thought this episode was going to be for you, but it's maybe for me.
I think it is for you.
All right. Well, do people think of sexual dysfunction as just something between you and your disappointed match on Raya?
I'm not on Raya.
I'm not either.
They didn't accept me.
I'm not either. I'm on the wait list. I've been on the wait list for 3 years.
Me too.
What is this? I don't know. Honestly, Raya, we have to talk to you.
I mean, seriously.
It's really sad. I'm like, no, I am exactly what you want.
And you've got like a bazillion followers. I mean, I thought that was what the big part of it was.
I think it was. I just think it blew up, and then now it's maybe not as popular. And
it's them. It's not us. Yeah,
it's definitely
right.
For sure.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't want to be on that anyway.
So, okay, well, Buck, here's our new segment. Have you heard? A new study that was published in Neurology showed that erectile dysfunction, also we'll refer to it as ED, drugs may help lower your risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, so actually it was pretty interesting stuff because we've known for a long time, if you think about like what that drug does and what any of these ED drugs, they increase blood flow, right? So one of the theories on Alzheimer's disease these days, it may not just be about these plaques building up and all that. It might actually have to do with decreases in blood flow. So this actually feeds right into that theory because they have all these men who'd been taking Viagra for years and years, and what they discovered is that they actually are getting Alzheimer's far less than people who were not taking it.
It totally makes sense,
right?
Because we need blood flow to the brain. We need blood flow. Even when we get it, ladies, gentlemen, when we get it to our skin, it's more plump. It's more nutrient based. It has oxygen. So if it's circulating all through the body and it's being helped by this drug, Viagra, can ladies take it? Maybe by low dose?
Well, I think we might have to ask our guest about that.
That's true. Very good point. I mean, that's why you'll never forget to take your Cialis.
That's a good point.
So how common is this exactly?
Yeah,
Maybe.
so this is crazy. And frankly, this is pretty new to me. And I didn't realize how big of a problem it is. 52% of men over the age of 40 have got some kind of problem with erectile dysfunction. And then on the women's side, 40% of women, I guess, who've got some problems with sexual dysfunction on their end. Yeah, there's a lot of commercials. And now we know why. Now we know why there's so many commercials for Viagra and stuff like that. You know, like sitting in the tub and holding hands next to each other off a cliff. I never understood that one. Do you
for Viagra commercials?
I think it's like
Sorry,
Cialis.
I'm not up that late
It's like
to watch these
Cialis
things.
or something. They always have the image of the two tubs, like two tubs next to each other. Really? They're not in the same tub either, which is probably part of the problem. But
that is part of the problem. Actually, that's a good point.
In all seriousness, this is a big problem. This is a big problem, and what you're going to see, though, is it's a big problem that, for the most part, vast majority of cases, you can fix it. And so there's such an impact on quality of life, mental health, all these things. So I would just say, guys, if you're out there and this is you listen to this show because, first of all, you're not alone. And second of all, there's lots of solutions. And this whole issue with erectile dysfunction, sexual dysfunction, I mean, this is not only against quality of life. We talked about mental health and all these things, but it really actually has to do specifically with what we talk about in the show, which is longevity. There was a meta-analysis, and a meta-analysis is basically a group of study. It's a study that combines a whole lot of other studies, and it makes it a little bit more powerful that way. But what they found was the greater frequency of sexual intercourse in men was associated with an actual lower death rate. And in maybe the frequency for men, but curiously in women, it was the enjoyment of intercourse, which predicted lower mortality. So I don't make
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Actually.
So one was frequency, one was enjoyment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because girls.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So, but see, here's the thing: is that like what we know is, and I think Ashley Winter's going to talk about this a lot. But what I find fascinating is that this whole concept of sexual dysfunction, particularly in men, it's really like the canary in the coal mine. If somebody has erectile dysfunction, if a man has erectile dysfunction, there is a strong correlation with cardiovascular disease in that same person in the next 5-6 years. So it actually relates significantly to overall health.
Yeah, it's like a total warning.
Yeah. Canary in the coal mine.
Canary in the coal mine.
There you go.
There you
So
go.
you learn something. And in fact, so let me tell you a story about Viagra, which I think is really funny. I mean, it's interesting the way Viagra was discovered. Mm-hmm. Okay, effectively, this is sort of the story was that they were studying this drug for pulmonary hypertension, which is a specific kind of blood pressure problem in the lungs. And so they had this study out there. And they gave all these guys these drugs, and they found out that, well, halfway through the study, this is not really helping with pulmonary hypertension. So they were trying to get, they call these people and they're trying to get the drugs back. And the guys wouldn't give the drugs back.
Oh, is that what? See, they're like,
they were like, no, it's good. I'm good. You know, I'm totally good. You just,
that's so funny.
I think it's working for me.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So that was sort of the indication that something was going on. They go back, they do surveys, and as it turns out, I was doing something else, and they were enjoying it.
Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about ED and sexual health with the amazing Dr. Ashley Winter, MD. Welcome back to Longevity Junky. All right, it's time for our interview in a segment that we call The Breakdown. I am so excited for our guest. We have Ashley Winter, board-certified urologist who's based in Los Angeles and specializes in sexual health. She's also a successful podcaster. And welcome, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is what I love to talk about all the time.
Yeah, so does Nikki, we've found.
I know. Isn't it so exciting that you know more about sex than most men?
Oh, yeah. My husband is a comedian, and he makes some joke on stage that I can flick his penis a certain way and he'll ejaculate a gold coin, and he's better
oh my
at
God.
the delivery
Is he a
of
leprechaun?
that, but like it's pretty hilarious. And that doesn't actually happen, but the idea that I'm some sort of like penis ninja is pretty hilarious.
I love Penis Ninja. That's a new one. I like that.
Penis ninja.
I really like that. I might put that on my resume.
Right now, I don't know really what to do with myself, frankly.
Actually, this is really just our show. He's just the model.
I know,
We're gonna just.
I don't exactly know what to do
He's
because
the
I'm like, wait,
anatomy.
if I participate, I'm going to get canceled. I'll stick to the science.
No, stick to the science. That's great.
Yeah.
So Ashley, it's Buck here. And so we were just talking a little bit earlier, and I mean, it's hard to get Nikki to focus on this topic because we were counting how many times she said penis and threw in a bunch of innuendos, but we did manage to get through a few things. And and part of that was that this whole concept of sexual health, it's not really optional, right? So we use this idea of sexual health, and especially in men, erectile dysfunction being sort of a canary in the coal mine. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I would love to talk about this. So as you say, so many people think of their sexual health as kind of optional, right? Your heart keeps you alive, and your brain keeps you alive, and your lungs keep you alive, and exercise keeps you alive, and what do your genitals have to do with it, right? But the really important thing is that the function of your genitals is a marker of your overall health. And it's actually an extremely sensitive marker because erections and arousal, right, in women becoming lubricated, becoming engorged, all of that is because the blood vessels are healthy and they dilate and the nerves are healthy. You don't have neuropathy and they're able to respond to your brain. And so it's a really dynamic marker of like all your organ systems working together. And what we know is that things like erectile dysfunction or female sexual arousal disorder, which we can go into later, actually precede heart attacks, strokes, and other major health events by up to 3 to 5 years. So like you're saying with the canary in the coal mine, it's a super sensitive marker of our overall health. And if we want to be, focused on our longevity and living our best, longest life, actually paying attention to the way our sexual organs are working is super important.
Tell us a little bit about the female side of this. With men, it's pretty obvious. It's a binary thing. You're either up or down or something like that. But with women, how do you, what are we looking at here in terms of, the symptoms to be concerned about and, whether that's physiologically or, what people are feeling or whatnot?
Yeah. Great question. It is a lot harder, right? Obviously, men can have erectile dysfunction from non-physical things, like they can have performance anxiety and lose their erection, right? Happens to a lot of young guys, for example, very, very healthy penis, but it's not working. But they know that they don't have what we call physical erectile dysfunction because they wake up in the morning and they have their morning wood, right? Like they know, or when they masturbate, it's able to get hard. It works. With women, it is a lot harder because you're not waking up and seeing a morning erection, even though really interestingly, right, the clitoris does get erections and every human gets an erection during their REM phase of sleep. It's just a lot harder to see because the clitoris is a lot smaller.
Let me ask you, when you're saying that clitoris, I wasn't excited about saying that word as much penis, but clitoris. So when the clitoris,
it's not the most fun word.
It's not.
I don't know why, and I'm a huge advocate for the clitoris, and I like talking about the clitoris all the time, but it's not as much fun to say.
We should have a different word. I mean, should we use a different?
It should get a rebranding. It should. Yeah, we should. I don't disagree with that.
We'll rebrand the clit. All right. So, anyways, how do you know that it's erect? Is that when it's like swollen?
It's hard to know because women aren't really like trained to know. Some ways you'll know that your clit has an erection is maybe it's more sensitive. You'll feel like a fullness, right? So you might have more sensitivity actually from intravaginal penetration because the clitoris is like a wishbone shape and parts of the clitoris actually go on either side of your vagina. And when they get really full, then you can actually like feel this sense of fullness from the inside of your vagina. It's not really your vagina swelling. It's actually your clitoris getting more full. So those are some indicators. Also, in parallel with getting this fullness of the clitoris, you get engorgement and production of this like fluid from the glands, and that's how you get wet. So those two things actually work in parallel. So if you're able to like get wet when you want to get wet, most likely the clitoris is getting erect when you want it to get erect.
I know that there is a lot of troubled women who actually can't get wet. That's, I feel like, why the lubrication industry is like a boomer. But like how can you make that more healthy? How can you help women get more lubricated on their own?
Oh, great question. So there's a few different
Asking for a
things that can be at play, right? It can be a hormonal thing. And if you don't have enough of your hormones, then the blood vessels in the clitoris and the blood vessels in the vagina and the blood vessels around the opening of the vagina that help you get lubricated, all of those blood vessels are not going to be healthy enough. So, and that includes both estrogen and testosterone, because testosterone is actually in every human and it's super important in every human. So if those hormonal levels like are not at the right place, then the blood vessels are not going to be healthy. But let's say you've checked all those boxes, you've checked your hormones, maybe you're on hormones if you need to be on hormones, and you're still not responding, right? Like you masturbate and you can't get lubricated. Then it's something you might want to talk to your doctor and say, like, can I be assessed for my health risk factors, right? Maybe I need a lipid panel. I need my cholesterol checked. Maybe I need to be screened for cardiovascular disease. So these are some things to think about. Also diabetes, right? I should be assessed for glucose intolerance, right? Like impaired ability to regulate your blood sugar. Because we know for a fact that diabetes is one of the major causes of sexual dysfunction in both men and women. So most often when I see young guys who otherwise look fit and their penis is not working at all, it's because they were a type 1 diabetic and nobody ever educated them that diabetes can wreck your ability to get an erection, and they come in they're 30 and it does nothing anymore, right? And that's because the diabetes damaged the nerves that communicate from your brain to your genitals.
We talked a little bit as an introduction to this show about 52% of men over the age of 40 having a problem with erectile dysfunction. What is the most common cause in men?
I'd say it's overall that basket of cardiovascular and metabolic risk factors. So when you think of metabolic syndrome, impaired glucose tolerance, high cholesterol, maybe cardiovascular disease without symptoms, overweight, which can also lead to low testosterone levels. So it's kind of a basket of all of these factors that, again, are really important for our longevity. And each one of them can kind of like chip away. Also being sentient, so not exercising a lot.
Whether you exercise a lot or not, and also what you eat. Like
Totally.
Like food is where you get your nutrients, is kind of what determines, if you're a diabetic because of, so much sugar or whatnot. But it sounds like even just down to the basics of making sure that you eat healthy.
Totally. And so this is one of my side jobs is I work with a company that makes a smart cock ring, and we're also working on basically a Fitbit for the clitoris. But
we're working on a Fitbit for the clitoris.
Yeah, that one's not on the market yet.
It'll be Fit Clit.
I know, Fit Clit. I know, we're working on the name.
Wait, so what's the smart cock ring called?
It's called FirmTech. So our website is myfirmtech.com.
So it's like an Oura ring for your penis.
Totally. But the reason I bring it up is because this guy sent in a testimonial where he showed like, oh, if I ate a high-fat meal, my nighttime erections were less, right? Or if I had aggressive cardiovascular exercise, my overnight erections were greater, right? And so you can see in real time these markers of your overall health manifested in the way your penis is working. And it's like very cool. And so when people talk about, ultimate biohacking, I think the final frontier is like measuring penis and your clit. And I have to, Buck, I want to send you a complimentary
smart cock ring.
A compliment.
Does he get one? Oh my God, this feels like Oprah was like, you get a cock ring, you get a cock ring. How fun. Can I have one for somebody?
Yes, you could totally have one for somebody. Yes.
Put it in the Christmas stockings and...
You guys, this is kind of funny.
Can you connect it to your mobile device and follow all? Is that kind of how it works?
Does it have an app? Does your
yes,
cock
exactly.
have an
app? Has an app. It has an app. That's how it works. Yes.
Oh God.
Which is hilarious because I'm sure you could like use your phone to keep track of your penis. I don't know. Like,
it's like your steps. So it's like you have 50 more strokes today before you reach your goal.
Yes. There you go.
50
No, but like straight up, I'm not joking, right? Like, I mean, it's hilarious, but it's also awesome.
So like an Aura ring, you wear it all the time, but for a cock ring, usually you just put it on when you're having fun, but do you wear it all the time?
You probably wouldn't wear it all the time. You definitely can wear it during sex, and then the most people oftentimes use it is overnight because typically
they wear it when they sleep.
The old like erections you get during REM sleep. And a great reason to look at them overnight, your nighttime erections, is because you eliminate what we call those like psychosocial factors, right? Like let's say you and your partner are getting in fights and so therefore you're not having great sex. Maybe your erection is not very good, but it's like because you got in an argument, not because your penis is unhealthy, right? So if you look at your nighttime erection, you're kind of eliminating those dynamic and you're really isolating out actually just the health of your penis.
If we have 52% of men over the age of 40, it's obviously a very common problem. A lot of this may be related to, say, testosterone, things like that are treatable. Maybe you could kind of talk about, some of the causes and some of the, easy fixes when it comes to this kind of thing, because I think that's probably something that people would like to know about, especially if they're having some problems.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's interesting, not only is erectile dysfunction so common, but again, it is such an important marker of your health that there's this group called the Princeton Consensus. And they've put out a group, like, I think at least 4 major consensus documents. These are big academic papers where they actually recommend that every man is screened for erectile dysfunction, meaning, when you go in for your annual physical, it should be that your doctor's asking you about it, not you asking your doctor, because it is that important. Now, that almost never happens, but it is that important and it's that common. So in terms of things you can do, I mean, we kind of covered the lifestyle factors, right? So exercise, eating healthy foods, getting a good night's sleep, all of these things are really important. Other really common causes of erectile dysfunction. So like you say, low testosterone. If somebody comes into me and mentions that they have erectile dysfunction, I do a screening testosterone blood test. It's easy to do. Maybe normal, but if it's low, of course, then we can talk about options for improving that. Another one actually is sleep apnea. So sleep apnea is a big cause of erectile dysfunction, and it also lowers testosterone. And once you start using your CPAP device or getting your sleep apnea treated, you could actually naturally raise your testosterone back up, you sleep better, and your erections become better. So that's like a huge one.
When it comes to testosterone in particular, because that's, obviously a pretty common thing, especially in the younger men that you're seeing, there's the Framingham study back in the 1950s that kind of took a baseline of a lot of markers in individuals. And what we see is that based on or compared to the numbers in the 50s, younger men are having testosterone levels up to like 30% below where they were. Do you think that's real? Do you think this is, just something about the way things were measured? And if it is real, why?
I think it's real. I think it's real because there's a lot more comorbidities, right? We're just less healthy. We eat more processed foods. We're more overweight. We're sleeping. Because we're more overweight, there's more sleep apnea. We're bombarded by our screens. We're looking at them in bed. Therefore, we're not sleeping well. I mean, I think a huge area of study that we're only starting to get into is the topic of what we call endocrine disrupting chemicals in the environment. Like we talk about things like PFAS and microplastics, right? There was a huge study came out recently showing that microplastics were found in people's plaques in their blood vessels, right? It's wild stuff. And so we don't know also to what extent basically the microplastics in our environment are affecting people's overall health, cardiovascular status, and also their hormones. It's just a nascent area. So I don't want to make a grand statement about cause and effect there because we don't actually know. But it is a potential other contributor to reduction in testosterone levels in the global population over time, right? And I think there's a huge interest in that area.
So in younger men, obviously it seems like, the major things to rule out would be testosterone. And obviously there's also a significant number of men who have sort of issues that may not be physiological, but might be kind of more in their head, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about how you would rule that out, I guess? Like, how do you make sure that that's not the problem?
Definitely there's that kind of psychological erectile dysfunction. I really call it a performance anxiety type erectile dysfunction. The main way to distinguish is, again, somebody noticing their morning erection or their ability to have an erection with masturbation, right? Most younger guys with erectile dysfunction, they're waking up with a nice morning erection. Maybe when they masturbate, they have a nice erection, and then they're going to perform and they are losing it, right? That's usually performance anxiety. Maybe it happened to them once, let's say this guy, right, he's in college, he's very healthy overall, but maybe there's a girl he has a crush on. He hooked up with her the first time. He was drinking too much. He lost his erection, didn't perform. And then the next time they meet up, he's not drinking, but he's stressed out because he lost it the first time he was with her. And then it happens again, right? That's something that happens pretty frequently. So for that guy, he's coming into my office. He's really worried about it. I ask him, hey, how's your morning erection? He's like, it's fine.
If you were asking me, I don't know if I would answer you.
I always ask people, how did they sleep? Now I'm going to be like, did you have a morning wood?
You think people are going to be awkward about this? Like, you're a woman. Why would I talk to you about this? And then, particularly if they're a straight guy, I'm like, okay, who do you talk to about your penis the most anyway? Probably like the person you're dating. Who sees your penis the most? Probably the person you're dating. Like, probably less guys have dealt with your penis, right? And also, if you just act really matter of fact about things, people are like, oh.
So if you think it's psychosomatic, what do you do? If you think it's something performance related, is there a way to sort of pop out of this cycle?
Yeah, totally. So there are a few different options. One, just educating somebody might actually have a benefit. The second thing, of course, is they can consider talking to a sex therapist, although it can be inaccessible and expensive. And then what I do as a urologist, because I am not a sex therapist, is I'll offer them Viagra or Cialis, right? I'll offer them an erectile dysfunction med. And people say, oh, they're young and healthy. Don't do that. Why do they need that? And there's actually really great literature showing that this can just be a confidence booster and alleviate the stress and anxiety they get around their erections. And then after they have a bunch of nice erections, they can actually like taper it off and stop using it.
There's like some of these studies that just recently came out about how men who had taken Viagra for years actually had less incidence of Alzheimer's disease. And so we were talking a little bit about, we've referenced this whole idea of these problems being canary in the coal mine. So I have another friend who's a urologist who his stance is that maybe every man over the age of 40 potentially should be on low dose Cialis. What's your take on that?
I'm all for it. There's a big urology conference right now. So there are studies looking at men, and you stratify them. You take the same group of guys and you say, all of these guys are similarly unhealthy, right? And you look at the ones who took Cialis and you look at the ones who didn't take Cialis, and the ones who took Cialis have a lower risk of death, have lower risks of chest pain, heart failure, lower risks of needing to go to a cardiologist and have a heart stent. Like, that is very robust data. Cialis can actually save your life.
Can women take it?
Yes, everybody can take it. Yes.
Everybody can take it.
Everybody can take it. If we don't have enough
Does it
data
have the
on
same benefit?
Women, yeah, totally. I prescribe it for women who are not getting lubricated enough and are not having the sensitivity that they want to have sometimes for orgasm difficulties, because it helps you get the blood flow to your genitals. I mean, it works exactly the same way in everybody. Viagra will respond to cognitive stimuli, meaning like, let's say you have erectile dysfunction and it improves when you take Viagra or Cialis. It just helps your natural signals.
Don't send me in the wild after I'm taking
No,
Cialis.
seriously, I would not send you in the wild for anything, really.
So I know we're talking a lot about like masturbation, but I feel like we're leaving out the partner. I feel like there's just more sex is good, right?
Sex is great for you. I mean, sexual health is health. And what we know is not only is it a marker for your overall fitness, right? Your ability for your genitals to work the way you want them to, but having sex is really good for you, right? I mean, it is cardiovascular exercise. You are getting your heart rate up. You are bonding. You have release of these really beneficial neurochemicals in your brain, like dopamine, oxytocin. You have what we call endogenous opioids released after your orgasm, right? So those are things like make you feel great, but from the inside, and they're healthy. So it's similar to what people have when they describe like a runner's high, right? It's the same chemicals being released in your brain. So yeah, it's good stuff.
So they say, you know, okay, you should move every day. You should get in some exercise daily. Should we be screwing daily?
Great question. So there is a concept, if you don't use it, you lose it. So most of that applies when you have like erectile dysfunction, let's say. Because if you don't have erectile dysfunction, you're going to have erections at night. So even if you have a quote unquote dry spell and you're not, let's say, getting laid, your penis is and your genitals are still exercising, right? They're exercising at night, even if they're taking care of that. They're checking that box, because if you don't use it, you do lose it. Now, where's an area where we actually see this being a problem? So let's say somebody has their prostate removed for cancer, okay? And very frequently, there's a period of time where you don't get any erections because the nerves are stunned. And that will come back, but it usually takes maybe 3, 6 months, 9 months, even up to 12 months. And during that period of time, you don't get those nighttime erections. And because of that, during that period of time, men can actually get shrinkage of their penis, they can get scarring, and they can get erectile dysfunction that's not related to the nerve. So because of that, we do tell those guys to actually take like a vacuum device and pull the blood into their penis using a vacuum device to
Like
help
a
maintain
pump, like a penis pump?
A penis pump, exactly. A penis pump. And we tell them to use that because if you don't use it, you lose it.
One of the other things to point out, just from a pure health standpoint, is that there is data showing that men who ejaculate at least 20 times per month actually have less risk of prostate cancer. Is that right?
That is correct. There was a study, I think published in the European Journal of Urology, showing that, yes, 21 times a month, men who ejaculate 21 times a month or more had a lower risk of prostate cancer.
21 times a month? Do we have time for that?
Sure you do. Yeah,
They must be
problem.
they must have the lowest stress levels I've ever seen.
I mean, I tell people not to worry about it because it's not like, oh, if you have 20 times a month, then you're going to get prostate cancer. And if you have 21 times a month, you have no
if I
chance
only
of prostate
ejaculated
cancer.
19 times this month.
There are other benefits too. I mean, even sleep, right? I mean, sleep is a major pillar of longevity, and certainly it helps with sleep as well. We know that as well, correct?
100%.
You know, it's a stress reliever. It's a release.
Definitely. And it's a great stress reliever. I don't have so much to add
She
to that.
smiles. She's like,
Yeah. What do you think?
No. I mean, yes, I'm sure there's a ton of studies on that specifically. But, empirically, we also just know it's true. And I do think that, particularly as you progress in a relationship, maybe you've been with the same person for, 8, 10, 15 years, to have a really robust, intimate physical relationship is an indicator, a surrogate of you taking the time to invest in your relationship, to communicate, So it's kind of like a proxy for just the health of your overall relationship. And it's not that you have to be physical to have a healthy relationship, but oftentimes those two things just go together really, really intimately. For sure.
There's a lot of stuff out there I'd love to get your feedback on. One is, again, this concept of the semen retention concept. You were getting to it earlier, but there's all these, groups out there and then talk about retaining. And is that, the idea maybe for, you used to hear it back in the day about athletes who would just, not want to have sex like a week ahead of time before a
big
fight or a
something.
game or
Yeah.
something like that. Talk a little bit about that. Is there any truth to any of this with regard to testosterone levels or performance or anything like that?
Yeah, there is absolutely no data whatsoever that retaining semen makes you more manly or it makes you have a higher testosterone. Absolutely zero. So I think a lot of the mythology around this comes from an old study, which I believe had a very, very small number of participants, where they showed that, let's say if you abstain from sex for over a week, then your testosterone level right after you orgasmed was higher than somebody who had not abstained. But your post-orgasm testosterone level is a transient level, right? So they misconstrued that study to think that your baseline testosterone all the time is higher if you're not having orgasms. But that is absolutely not true. And that same study showed that all men, whether or not they abstained or didn't abstain, had the same baseline testosterone. And that's your surrogate for kind of, how virile you are per se, right? There's another study that's often mentioned to me from semen retention groups and forums, and it's actually been retracted. And then there's nothing else I can find. So it is 100% garbage nonsense.
Wait, there's a semen retention group?
Oh,
they sound like a lot of fun.
They sound...
The other thing that I think would be really interesting, because there's a lot of talk about this, is the effects of porn on watching porn in men or women or whatever, and how that affects their desire for sex, maybe their hormonal issues. Is any of that real?
Moderation is key. So it's like the same idea. Does watching TV make you have a heart attack, right? Well, I don't know. If you watch TV 20 hours a day and never get off your butt, then maybe in theory you're watching TV caused you to have a heart attack, right? If you watched half an hour a day and you also, while you're at the gym, it's fine. And the same thing, most people who are consumers of pornography, there's no adverse effect on their erections. There's no adverse effect on their testosterone or their relationships. The problem is there are some people who, have an addiction to it and they watch it 10 hours a day. And that is problematic. And that's somebody who should talk to a therapist or a sex therapist and get help.
The porn industry has desensitized a lot of men for expectations, and they're, not every stepmom is friggin' horny, it's
really
not, yeah. And sometimes the Amazon delivery guy just wants to deliver your damn package.
I saw that movie.
Yeah, did you see that one?
Sometimes your realtor isn't
right. The realtor, sometimes she's really trying to sell your house.
That whole genre is hilarious. For sure, pornography has created unrealistic expectations and probably far more relationship dysfunction than erectile dysfunction. Yeah, for sure. And I do think that is something that everybody needs to be aware of, is that there's unrealistic expectations, that it's not a good portrayal of women's arousal and stimulation and, all that good stuff. So people have to
ask her about your egg thing.
Okay. Yeah. Cause honestly, okay. Have you heard of, Gwyneth Paltrow? I feel like we all know her. There's something about, she was selling the Yanni egg, right? Okay. I did not know that right now Goop has to pay $145,000 in penalties for claims about this egg. Now, I will say I own one of these eggs, and I want to know what your take on it is.
Okay, so the yoni egg, right, it's something you put in your vagina, and it's like so that you Kegel, right? Like you clench your muscles.
More or less. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, your muscle tone. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so, and I am assuming, I don't know about this lawsuit, but I'm assuming they made specific medical claims when it's not registered as a medical device, which is technically illegal.
I don't know what the claims were. I know there's some apparent risk. I mean, obviously there's, as you can imagine, bacterial vaginosis, toxic shock syndrome. I would imagine if it was toxic shock syndrome and somebody died, it would be a hell of a lot more than $145,000. though.
Well, I think some of the claiming it was increased vaginal muscle tone, a hormonal balance, and then a feminine energy. Those are the three things I think that they were claiming.
Okay. Again, I don't know the specifics of this lawsuit, so I should disclose that. I also am not an expert on feminine energy. I don't really know what that is. I have general energy when toddler doesn't wake me up, and I have coffee. I'm a woman, and I guess that's feminine. But a huge part of sexual satisfaction is orgasm, right? And a huge part of why orgasms are pleasurable are these rhythmic contractions that we have in our pelvic floor and around the base of the penis and around the base of the clitoris. That is integral to orgasm. And those rhythmic contractions send signals back up to your brain, and it feels good, blah, blah, blah. So there is this theory that anything that kind of helps you strengthen your pelvic floor and allows you to be aware of that and engage it could help you with your sexual health. But again, you can't make a specific claim about a specific thing curing sexual dysfunction unless you actually did a clinical trial to demonstrate that. And so, most Kegel devices haven't done those type of studies, so you can't make a medical claim about them. But definitely if a woman saying, I used to be able to orgasm and I can't anymore, maybe on physical exam, I see if she's able to clench the muscles in her pelvis, right? And if she's not able to engage them, then I'm usually saying, hey, why don't you go to a physical therapist, right? Because they're experts in helping you learn to use those muscles. And they can actually help you get back to the point of orgasm if you were not able to get there. And they might recommend something like one of those yoni eggs or a whole bunch of other devices.
We've talked about some of the things that people can do, men can do in particular. They've got options with, drugs, certainly. And I know we didn't really talk about injections and things like that. But when all else fails, what's up with the penis pump? Because this is something a lot of people don't know about. But again, my urology buddy down in LA is telling me how popular this thing is getting, and that, you're talking about porn stars. I guess apparently some of the guys have them.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounded like kind of, I don't know, it didn't sound particularly
like a bad
like
thing?
like a great thing initially. But can you talk a little bit about how they work and all that?
Yeah, I would love to talk about this. So what you're talking about is an implanted penile prosthesis, which is, people get confused about a vacuum pump versus that, right? A vacuum pump is like an external device that you put over the penis and it makes a vacuum and pulls blood into the penis, right? I believe what you're talking about is an implanted device. So this is something, when somebody has erectile dysfunction that doesn't respond to other treatments, or they're not comfortable using other treatments, right? Like Viagra, like a vacuum device, like injections, like shockwave, like penile Botox, which is controversial but is a thing. Then they can go and have surgery to have an implanted penile prosthesis.
Like Air Jordan kind of thing,
Exactly. It's like an inner tube for your penis. That's what it is. It's an inner tube for your penis, and they've been around for longer than Viagra. They've been around for a really long time. I've actually done this surgery myself over 100 times.
I mean, it sounds like something like if you're a guy, you'd be like, man, that doesn't sound like it'd be good. But apparently these people who have it absolutely love it because they get all the same and potentially even better sensation because they're like totally, massively erect. they can kind of control it.
Does it open the blood vessels?
Yeah,
Or
well,
and allow blood
opens
to
up
go
the
through?
space for the blood vessels to go through, because part of the issue we were having before was the
Right.
muscles.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Right.
Anyway, we'll let you tell us about it instead of us telling you about it. But
Yeah. The way it works is, so nothing is taken out, right? Nobody removes any part of your penis, but you put these two cylinders in, one in each side, right? Because there's two main erection chambers, and you put one in each side, and there's tubing that connects to a pump that sits in your scrotum, and then there's a reservoir of fluid that you tuck in the pelvis. Okay, none of this is external; it's all internal. And so, when a guy who has one of these devices wants to be erect, he basically Air Jordans his penis by pressing the pump in the scrotum. And then it makes the fluid that was in this reservoir chamber move into the...
where's the button?
It's in the scrotum. I feel bad. I have multiple of them in a chest somewhere in my garage. Otherwise, I would show it to you.
I mean, like devices, could you do it from your phone?
Is there
or
an
something?
app?
Yeah.
That is a great question. So right now there is not. They are in development. The one right now is just manual using the button that's implanted in the scrotum. So you just feel it through the skin and squeeze it. As you add complexity and as you add an app, that adds more failure points, right?
Yeah,
what
like
if
upgrades, right? Like iOS updates right in the middle, and it ruins the mood every time.
Or what if what if your phone isn't working, or you lost your phone and now you can't get erect? Or what if somebody hacked you and now you're erect when you don't want to be because they started controlling your penis? I don't know.
Right, when the
you
kids
know?
get the phone?
I mean,
Oh my God, that's so funny. What's this
I'm
app?
telling you, there are multiple, like, I've heard through the grapevine, and I don't work in like DC, but I've heard through the grapevine that there are many members of Congress who have these things. Like, imagine if it was a security threat to America.
I mean, it's like a big Chinese hack, and then the entire Congress like blows up.
Salute.
Like, gets erect. Yeah, no, I'm saying, like, this is the dystopian future that we could be looking at.
Dystopian.
So I don't like.
Okay, we have to let the good doctor go here. She's got some things to go, but just when we wrap it up here, what's one piece of advice you'd like to give men and women, just who are experiencing sexual dysfunction?
Yeah. My one main piece of advice is to not be scared to talk about it. To just, not only be open with your partner about it, but go to your doctor and say, I am actually concerned about this. This is what's going on. And you should get help and resources, and know that it's one, there are lots of things we can do to help. And two, it's an important marker of your overall health, and you deserve an evaluation for why it's happening. So, sexual health is health.
Dr. Ashley Winter, will you come back? Can we do like a episode 2? Because I'm having so many exciting questions I want to ask you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I
Okay.
am happy to anytime.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This is super fun.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with our healthy takeout. Welcome back to Longevity Junky. Okay, that was super fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Super fun for me. I'm going to roll us right into healthy takeout.
Healthy
So
takeout.
taking away from this, it was so good. I love the fact that she said that women can also take Cialis, because she
Yeah.
recommended, because it's literally helping blood vessels like expand, because we need blood circulation for nutrients and oxygen to go all over our body.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, that's new to me. I didn't know. I mean, it totally makes sense,
Totally
but
does.
you never hear about it.
Well, because
So-
it's labeled as like Viagra or something for erectile dysfunction,
Right.
but it really is for blood flow. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, one of the things that she said was that every man, I guess it could be women too then, but should be on probably low dose Cialis, which is like a 5 milligram. I think the generic is tadalafil. A friend of mine told me to do this a year or two ago. So I've been doing this.
Oh,
And
wow.
for me, it's like just to supplement like
Did you notice?
the 5 million other supplements I'm on.
Right.
Well, I mean, listen, my Coalmine is fine. The Canary and the Coalmine thing. So I didn't really notice, like, I didn't have any noticeable huge differences. But I will say that a very good friend of mine, who was quite the player for many, many years, but he kind of told me he was having some issues, and I'm like, well, dude, why don't you at least try this and see if it takes care of the issue? He went on the 5 milligrams a day, and he's back. He's back.
He's back playing.
He's
Ladies
back.
and gentlemen, women, watch out.
That's all it took. He was getting depressed.
Oh,
he was.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah.
His manlyhood was getting shot down.
Frankly, for him, a lot of this was his identity too.
Yep.
And
that
so,
makes sense.
if you're in your late 50s and all of a sudden that's been your identity throughout your entire life, and now you're like, can't do this. Yeah. And the reality is that most people don't know how easy it is to solve the problem. So they're not. Right. So they're worried, and they don't know how easy it is, and that's again why we're doing the show, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
no, that's definitely something I learned. Also, something I learned was and I want to get the name correctly, but I have no idea. But it's the Aura ring for the dick. I thought that was cool.
I think it was
my Firm Tech.
My Firm Tech.
My
yeah.
Firm Tech. That's incredible.
You seem far more excited about that than me.
It's so weird, and I'm sorry I'm being so honest about that. I can't. I'm a very authentic and genuine person in that, like, my reactions are 100% genuine.
For sure.
And I can't tone it down, and I know I'm so much more excited about this smart cock ring than you are, and I don't know why.
Well, hey, you can, it's one more thing to, I don't know, maybe you would put the app on your partner's, or you'd put the ring for your partner, but then you'd keep the app to just sort of keep.
I monitor his dick.
You monitor.
Oh my God, it feels like
maybe that would be the way you would
tracker.
do it. Right.
It sounds kind of like a
like a child tracker.
Like it kind of sounds like scary, or like, I'm gonna do my best to use the smart cock ring or the My Firm Tech. I like smart cock ring so much better. I should talk to these people.
Well, I think it's probably what it's going to be called. I mean, they're not.
I think it's out there already.
Smart cock ring. I think that's what they'll call it. I don't think they're going to call it. People are not going to say My Firm Tech. They're going to be like My Smart Cock Ring.
Well, I think it's at the dinner table. It might be better to say My Firm Tech than
That's
it would
true.
be to be
That's
like,
true.
You know what I mean?
Unless it's your dinner table, in which case it's going to become.
This is true. In that case, Dr. Ashley Winters is invited to my damn dinner, and we are going to have the most entertaining conversations. It's going to be, our pillow talk is so much different probably than most people.
You and Ashley Winters?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, pillow talk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Can we say that she's hot?
She's kind of hot.
Yeah.
I'm not, I
okay,
didn't say
that's
that.
what we're just going to take.
You're allowed to say that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Very cool.
Okay, Longevity Junkie. Hope you got your fix. That's it for us this week. Nikki, read us out.
Longevity Junkie is created by Dr. Buck Joffrey, MD, and Timothy Fornara. It is executive produced by me, Nikki Lee, Buck Joffrey, and Timothy Fornara. The show is produced by Pretty Fast, original music by Alloy Tracks with mixing by Jay Palezzi, and we're distributed by our friends at Acast. See you next time.